Hello, I'm Mary Phaeton. Welcome to Cover, where West Australian authors talk about their latest books. The show is presented by Writing WA, the peak body for writing and associated activities in Western Australia. My guest today is Shokoofeh Azar to discuss her first novel published in English, The Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree. Welcome, Shokoofeh.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I want to start at the beginning. In the very first chapter, there is an enlightenment and an execution. Tell me about the beginning of this book.
Actually, this novel starts with two very opposite situations, like in enlightenment and also being executed by government. So the story starts about first years after Islamic Republic and first decade also. So lots of people, they thinking and their action was against new regime they executed by governments. And this is part of our history that government never want to accept what they done. And even sometimes when they talk about that, they say it was revolution, what you expect about that. So, but it's painful, and still we try to remind people that we should not forget that period of our history. And still I see lots of young generation, they don't know even. So it really make me upset, and I thought I have kind of responsibility about to remind people, hey, we had this history only 30, 40 years ago, and we should remember. And the Enlightenment comes from my personal interest, and also I think before I said in other interviews that my uncle is he has a long experience of meditation and this kind of thing. So always in our house was talking about the spirituality, about the meditation or this kind of thing. So life is complicated, and in first chapter I want to show, as we have this beauty of the inspiration, we have also this history of our culture. And so I want to put people directly to the heart of our issues. So in Iran, yeah.
The person who's enlightened is the mother of the family that we come to know in this book, Rosa. And the person executed is her only son, Sohrab. Tell me about the whole family.
Yeah, whole family for me is present the whole country and whole people of us after Islamic Republic. So people, Father Hushang is present the kind of intellectual who always been against this regime. When Islamic Republic happened in 1979, my father was part of a small percent of people who didn't vote yes to this regime. So it was only 2% of people, 98% of people said yes to this regime. So I always thinking that this kind of people, how was this the feeling of them in last 40 years with all of negative things that happened by government, by Iranian regime. So, and I saw my father, how he suffered, how he was unhappy, but he couldn't do anything. So he really, and my father's name is Hushang, and my mother's name is Rosa. So, and the mother of this story is present of inner peace woman who wants change difficulty of the life in this kind of situation, but by insight, inspiration, and by love and a reaction of woman against difficulty of a difficult situation like what we had in last 40 years is totally different of men. So she is a symbol of a woman who has an inner peace and who wanna, in the same time, who wanna change things. And then the older child, Sohrab, is exactly for me was like all of the generation who killed by this regime in first decade. So they've been young, they've been full of hope, and they all been good educated, and also they've been so innocent. So as we see in Sohrab here, is so innocent. We don't know really a lot about him because I want to put him in the, kind of mystery, because we don't know about the first generation who killed by this regime in first decade. Still we don't know who they are, but we know all of them been very good educated, so innocent, so high educated at university, and they just killed like very,
for that.
Yes, exactly, for just being different, thinking different, I mean. So, and then second child of the family, Bita, is for me was president of the all Iranian young women after Islamic Republic. They want to be something, but the Islamic law didn't let them. She wants to be ballerina. She wants to dance. She loves to dance. She feel when she dance, she feel freedom, but she was not allowed to doing this. So she always felt that she need to be something, but she's not. She can't be. So she is this type of woman in my culture. And also Bahar is, I think maybe she's me when I was teenager. Bahar is the youngest child of this family, and she just killed accidentally in first days of revolution.
And she's the narrator.
Yes, she is.
So tell me a little bit more about, because I think Bahar is actually the inspiration for the beginnings of this story, because you started to write about a teenage girl. Tell me about the very beginnings of this.
Beginning of how this story began for me. So actually, I came to Australia. When I came to Australia, I was so lost, I think. And then I think after 1 year, I start to imagine a little girl, 13, 14 years, teenage girl. She was running away everywhere. Everywhere that I go, she was with me, and I feel that. And I thought, oh, probably I should write something about her. And I knew that she looked like was me when I was teenager. And then I started writing, and very soon I recognized that it's not the shortest story. It's going to be a novel. She has lots of things to say. So this novel starts like this, yeah.
And we don't realise at first that she's dead, or I certainly. So that's one of the things that becomes magical straight away, is that she's very much involved in what's going on with her family and communicates with them all the time, and they're aware of her presence. And then you find out that she's dead.
Yes.
And has died tragically as well. So tell me, this is the first time that you wrote the book in Farsi, but you wrote very much with an English-speaking audience in mind.
Yeah.
So what did you want us to understand about your experience, the experience of Iranians during this time?
Yeah, actually, yes, this is a good question, because immediately after third draft, when I find my voice, when I find my narrative and everything, I said, okay, this book will publish in English. I had planned for that. So, and I love people in English culture knows more about my culture, beauty and depths of my culture, traditions, beauties of the arts, writers, poets. You see, there is a lots of facts of the poems and writers in my book, Iranian writers and poets, and also Western writers and poets. But I want people to know about our mythology, about our beauty of our culture, dance, food, everything. It was when you are in Australia and see the news, all news about Iran is, oh, okay, Iranian government is a terrorist or like that. But you know there is more positive things in our culture and in our country. So I want people to see all of mixture of the beauty and horror, everything together. We're living with all of them. Yeah.
Yes, and it interested me because your experience, your work experience was as a journalist in Iran, and that was, in the end, you're writing the reason why you ended up needing to come to Australia. And you could have written a story about this situation in a journalistic style.
Exactly.
But instead, you chose magical realism.
Yes, it's true.
So all of this mythology and religion and everything ties into these fantastical things that happen in something that is very much bedded in reality.
Yeah.
Tell me about what magical realism is and why you used it.
Is mix of reality and supernatural, natural, or any kind of public beliefs. So when you go to the heart of families and friends' beliefs, you find they believe lots of things that is not very reasonable, or maybe it's not very scientific. So, and where they come from? They come from our culture and depths of the beliefs, people believes, and also it's come from myths. Still, I believe myths are alive in our culture. And so when I want to write my novel, I thought, okay, if I just want to write as a journalist and write as a in realistic style, I miss lots of beauty. I don't want to miss all of this. There is lots of things in our culture, and I want to show all of them together. And it's not possible to show my culture without magic realism, I believe. So you can write about lots of things in realistic things, but it's not it doesn't show what we really are. Yeah.
And the inspiration for that came from a book you love very much,
yes,
100 Years of Solitude.
Yes, actually it's started about 20 years ago when I was studying at university. I read first time 100 Years of Solitude by Marquez, and I just fascinated by this book, and I found, wow, I can write like that then. Or we can think about life like that. So this book, which is my holy book, and every 2-3 years I read it, and I learn a lot from this. This book also show me that there is lots of similarity of culture between us and South American. And then when I was reading most of Iranian classic storytelling, like Darabname, like 1001 Night, like lots of beautiful classic book that we have, like Shahnameh, that probably in English is King, a story of king. So I found all of this magic realism in there. So if I want to write magic realism, it doesn't mean this style is exactly same style of South American tellings. You know, it can come from my culture. So when I want to write this novel, I said, okay, you can use all of the technique that you learn from all of Iranian classic books too. And I think as much as I use techniques of 1001 Night in this book for storytelling, I didn't use other techniques. Yeah.
Give me some examples of how you've managed to bring in the Jenny, the ghosts into the story in a way that it really does reflect the culture. You probably couldn't do the culture justice if you didn't use this technique.
Yes, I think so. It depends to writers. Writers write in different ways, and they look at the life in different ways. But this is how I look at our life, and my culture. So I think I can't judge anything individually. Everything connected to each other. So if I want to talk about, for example, about Rosa, the character of this novel, I can't talk about Hushang, I can't talk about Sohrab, I can't talk about Sohrab Sepehri. It was her first love, if you remember in this book, that she recognized him after he left her. And she found, oh, Sohrab Sepehri, the famous poet, Iranian poet. And, so you should see everything together. And then when you want to talk about politics, you can't talk about culture. And when you talk about culture, you can talk about myths and legend and, everything. So I try to bring all of these materials in one dish.
I want to understand a little bit more how it is that people who, say the Islamic culture, for example, but also with a layer of mythological beliefs can sort of live together, because they shouldn't, but they do.
Yeah. So because I think life is different of laws. what is law? What is law? Islamic law, for example, say that woman can't dance, but we dance at home. And they said women are not allowed to sing, but we sing. So law is something and life is something else. So I want to present what is law against of life.
Yes.
Life is full of activity and beauty, and you can't stop life. So this novel is about how life is active and want to go further and discover, and even when they kill them, their ghost still is have an activity and they go upper.
One of the things that I learned a little about in the book was the other religion which dominates in the book, which is Zoroastrian. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I'm fascinated by this religion. This religion is actually more in spirituality. It's spiritual. It's not just religion. So this is our first religion in Iran before Arabs attacked us in 1400 years ago. So still when you talk with Iranian after 1400 years ago, still people say, oh, we've been Zoroastrian, we love that, but they changed our religion by force. Arabs 200 years killed Iranian until they brought this religion to us by force. So still we suffer. It's funny, after 1400 years ago, 100 years, still we think, oh no, it's the religion by force. But anyway, everything changed after this religion, and everything mixed together. And I think beauty of life is seeing this mixture that sometimes is not reasonable, but is it?
I heard you say about having the religion brought by force, and it reminds me of the dilemma that the father, Hushang, experiences all through the book, but towards the end we focus on him. And he goes back into Tehran after a long time away, and he has a look at it after this revolution has happened. And I really felt his dilemma of the situation, which was, should I have done what I did and resist, or should I have made life easy for myself by just going along with what I was being asked to do? And it was an enormous pain for him.
Yes, it was. The things that's personally I like about Hushang is that he tried to change himself. When he moved to Tehran, he said, okay, maybe it was wrong that I want to be isolated and I don't want to be part of this society after Islamic Republic. And he said to himself, okay, I want to go and see what's his other people ideas about this regime. I'm sure I am not the only person that suffer with this regime. And then he started walking through of the Engelab street, which is my favorite street in Tehran. And then he saw lots of things and happened to him as you see in a story. So he tried to really understand people, and he said to himself, maybe if I was there, if I didn't escape from Tehran, maybe I was more useful, maybe I could do something better in the society. But in the end, he find that at least it's so late and he can't do anything.
And that struggle for him, I assume, represents the struggle for many Iranians.
Exactly, it's true.
The other thing that happened in his experience was that he was imprisoned and he was asked to write what happened. And first he writes the magical story, and then he's asked to write it again, and he writes it, the reality. And for me, that was, in that moment, I had clarity on exactly why you chose magical realism.
Yes, so when in the prison they asked Hushang to write about who is he, why he's here, and what he's done in the past, he said all of reality of his life. But reality of this story is magic realism, and no one, of course, in the prison can understand what he's saying. And then they said, no, you are crazy, or you want to make fun with us. So write true story, what really happened. And then he started writing lie. He lied everything. He made lots of a story that looks like reality for other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
The book is beautifully translated. I mean, the richness of the language is absolutely gorgeous to read.
It's true.
Tell me, was it difficult to find someone who could translate it the way you'd hoped?
Yes, it's not easy to find because I need someone originally speak in English. First language of him or her should be English, and then knows our depths of our culture, Iranian culture. So it was really difficult to find this kind of people. So I was enough lucky to find him, and we had long conversation and long messaging together and talking about each part of the novel. So I'm so grateful to find him, and he is really, I think he is the best for me to translate this book. This book is complicated, multi-layers, and full of our culture. So I need someone to understand all of this. And because he used to live in Iran for a long time, he really done this job very well. Yeah, I'm so happy.
I can't have a conversation with you about this book without asking you about the Greengage Tree and why the Greengage Tree is so significant.
Yeah. First of all, Greengage Tree is a tree, fruit tree that we had in our farm a lot. This fruit is so delicious, is savory, and all Iranian women love this. If you see any Iranian woman, ask her about goji sabz, she will tell you that she loves that. So, but it's not just about the fruit in this book. It was this fruit, this tree for me is symbol of tree of life. So my whole childhood, I had lots of playing around of this tree, and this tree has a beautiful blossoms and with beautiful smell that fill all of our garden. So I remember this tree as something that I had a strong connection with. So when I was writing this novel, this tree came to my mind immediately as a tree of life. Yeah, so, and also tree of knowledge. So this is symbolic.
And it reminds me also of how well you were able to evoke the beauty of and how important the gardens are generally in this story. The lushness of the landscape, the fragrance is something that you use. Is that exactly as you remember?
Yes, exactly. So I born in Tehran, capital city of Iran, and my father after that immediately bought a farm in north of Iran next to jungles, depth jungle, and also Caspian Sea. So the village that we went there was so fertile and pure, and no one knows city stuffs. Our car was first car in the village, and I remember even the fork and spoon. They never saw fork and spoon before us. So there was lots of interesting things in the village that we love to know as a city girls, and they love to know about us because they've been village people. So we learn a lot about the village people and our garden. It was 13-hectare farm full of flowers and trees and animals and birds, So it was, all of my childhood was like heaven. Yeah, so this village and this garden is exactly what I experienced in my childhood.
When you reflect back on the enlightenment of the Greengage Tree, is there a part of this story that you love that is very close to you?
A lot. Yeah, I think most of stories. So there is something about 90 independent short story in this novel. So that's most of them is my experience. I saw some of them in my dreams or my meditations, or I experienced in my life as a journalist, as a woman, as someone who grew up after Islamic Republic. So one of the parts that I can say I really connect and always make me cry is the part of Beta when she turned to mermaid and then she back to the beach just by mistake in the daytime. So
I knew you were going to say
that. Yeah.
There are many parts in which I was deeply affected, and that was definitely one of them. Yeah. Is this the book you thought you would write?
I never thought I will write this book before. But when I wrote my fourth draft, I said, yes, this is what I want to say. And this is most close things and more the book that is very, very similar to me, how I look at the world, how I look at the people. And before fourth draft, I had no idea that I want to write exactly the same narration that I want. And it's really show who I am, actually, I think.
Yes. And despite now the critical acclaim that you're receiving for it, beautiful reviews for it, it took you a long time to find a publisher.
Oh, yes. Actually, so this book took me 2.5 years to write, and then 1.5 to work with translator. And then when he finished chapter 8, I start to send to publishers to see what can I find the good publisher or not. So I sent it to lots of big companies, and none of them said yes. All of them said no, or rejected. In the end, I found the Wildingo Press at Melbourne. I sent her, and I remember in first or second, 2 weeks after she received the book, she said, wow. I said, oh, good voice. I love this because she talked to me first time. She talked to me about 1001 Nights. So she had knowledge about literature, classic literature, and she understands what I've done in the book,
And then managed to find some international interest as well for publication.
She actually found in the Frankfurt Festival at Germany, she found 8 different publishers that they want to translate this book.
Will you be able to publish it in Farsi?
Oh, good question. I can publish it in Farsi, but not inside of Iran. As you read, I have two chapters about Khomeini. So far, I never seen anyone write fiction about Khomeini or make joke with him, or or have a critical vision about him in fiction, I mean. And also the whole story is about the killing people in first decade after Islamic Republic. Of course, this regime can't tolerate this. So it means after publishing this novel, I never ever came back to Iran, which is really sad.
And the way in which Khomeini reaches his death in the book, I wondered how you felt about writing that. He goes mad in a like a mirrored underground palace and dies alone. How did it make you feel to write that?
Actually, one of my concern always about leaders or people who work with this regime is they die in peace, and it makes me so upset and angry, and it still happens. I see that people who are murder of thousand and thousand people die in peace and richness, and it makes me so upset. And I said, no, I want a revenge in this book. And actually, when I was writing that how Khomeini died, it makes me so little bit happier, especially when he talked with a boy, that it was himself when he was boy. It seems he met himself when he was 9 years old. And the question that he asked from Khomeini, that say, why you did that? And he couldn't answer. All of his response was just ridiculous. So, it was what I really want to say about Khomeini.
Now, at the end of each cover-to-cover interview, I always ask for a West Australian book recommendation. And today, you're recommending someone who's been a guest on the program, Susan Medalia.
Yes, I love her, the style of her writing a story, short story. I think short story is the type of writing that readers should have a more attention to, because it's really like the window of our life. So I love her style, because she's writing about everyday life, and writing about everyday life is not easy, because in the same time you should write something that other people can't see in everyday life.
Yes.
So this is why I like this book. Yeah.
And you speak from experience, because you've written 2 volumes of short stories yourself.
Yes, I had 2 collections of short stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're recommending Susan's Feet to the Stars?
Yes, surely. Yeah.
Shokoofeh, thank you so much for writing The Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree. I feel enlightened having read it, and although, as you know, it's caused me much emotional pain to read it, it is a beautiful piece of work, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on Cover to Cover.
Thank you for inviting me.
If you're in a book club, then we recommend The Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree and all the other books we've featured on Cover to Cover for your group to read. To prompt your discussions, we've created book club notes that you can download from the For Readers section of Writing WA's website. Crow Books in Perth stock all the books featured on this show, so if you're unable to buy these books locally, give Crow a call. If you mention that you saw the book on Cover to Cover when you place your order, you'll get the postage free. Next month, 2-time Miles Franklin Literary Award winner Kim Scott will join me to discuss his latest novel, Taboo. The novel is set in the great southern region of WA and tells the story of a group of Noongar people who revisit a place that has been taboo for generations, the site of an assassination and a massacre. The elderly owner of the land has invited the group in the hope of reaching some sort of reconciliation to these traumatic historical events. This is a powerful and confronting story from one of Australia's most acclaimed writers. The Writing WA team loves receiving your feedback about Cover to Cover. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please use the email address shown on the screen. Thanks for joining me again this month, and thanks again to my guest, Shokoofeh Azar.
Thank you, Mary.
Enjoy reading local, and see you next month on Cover to Cover.